Welcome to another edition of Good Shepherd Pet Foods Informational Presentations. Today's topic, carbohydrates in pet foods. So what are carbohydrates? Well, scientifically, they're just molecules composed of hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. But for everyday conversation, they're basically used for energy. Now, when we're talking about pet food products, what we're talking about are the ingredients such as your different types of corn and rice and wheat and barley and millet and oats. That's what we need to focus on today and their influence on your pet's health. So are carbs really all that bad for dogs or cats? Well, not necessarily if there's no other energy source available. Carbohydrates can be used for energy, but they're really not ideal, and that's the scary part. A dog or a cat that is eating a high-carb diet will ultimately end up with health problems because they should be getting their energy through sources of protein and fat. And the only way to get protein and fat in a dog or a cat's diet is by feeding meats such as chicken, beef, turkey, rabbit, duck. Those are the energy sources that carnivores should be eating. So what are the dangers of feeding a high-carb diet to your pet? Well, again, we know carbohydrates are not biologically necessary for dogs or cats. So feeding them a high-carb diet day in and day out is really what's doing the most harm. If we fed them a high-carb diet once in a while, not a big deal. But the fact that pet parents are told by the pet food companies to feed the exact same food every day, day in and day out for years at a time, that is what is hurting our pets the most. The fact that there's no change. So if you are unknowingly, and you probably are, purchasing a high-carb pet food, the dose is making the poison. Anything, even things that we need to live, such as water and oxygen, can be fatal if taken in high doses. The other problem is that eating a high-carb diet is the fastest way to have an overweight pet. And with 50% of our pets today in the United States overweight, we have to put two and two together and say it has to be in the diet. You might be asking yourself, how do we know that dogs and cats don't need carbohydrates in their diet? Well, there's a book out there called the Waltham Book of Companion Animal Nutrition that is a compilation of all the nutritional requirements that we know of today that dogs and cats have. The big pet food companies will reference this book when they're formulating new recipes. And within this book, it is quoted, there's no known minimum dietary requirement for carbohydrates. And you know what? We didn't really need a book to tell us this. Let's just look at nature herself. Dogs and cats in the wild, before man got involved and decided to tell them what they need to eat, they would have eaten a very low-carb diet. You have to remember, they have evolved being carnivores. So dogs and cats eating a high-carb diet is really crazy, knowing that in nature, their diet would have been way less than 30% carbohydrates. So when you as a pet parent are buying a pet food, you need to make sure that the carbohydrate level is less than 30%. So just how many carbs are in commercial pet foods? Well, anywhere from 40 to 70%. And this does include your premium, top-of-the-line, very expensive kibble as well. It is not just the cheap kibble that is 40 to 70% carbs. And that's what we're going to focus on next. How to determine just how many carbs your pet food has. Before we get into that though, I think it's important for pet parents to understand why are there so many carbohydrates in pet foods. Well, first of all, carbohydrates, which are the starches, the grains, give the kibble a very, very long shelf life. And when we consider that a pet food can be made one day and not really land on a store shelf until a year or two later, carbohydrates are a must in the pet food. Also, they're essential to hold the kibble together. All those cute little shapes, the little fishies and stars and circles, all of those would just turn to dust if the product didn't have a good starch base, carbohydrates within it. So these are the two main reasons why pet foods have to have so many carbohydrates in them. The other reason that they do have carbohydrates in them is that truly the most pet food companies are actually just divisions of the human food companies. For example, Nestle owns Purina, Mars owns Pedigree, Royal Canin, Caesar, Greenies, and all those. So it's just very easy to say, hey, we've got byproducts from our human food plants. Let's just slide it over into our pet food divisions. It's not a coincidence that the two biggest pet food companies out there are really divisions of the human food industry. Because what does that mean at the end of the day? Right there. Carbohydrates are cheaper than proteins and fats. And that's what it all boils down to, the almighty dollar. If you can put more carbs in your pet food rather than putting proteins and fats in it, you're going to make more money. Now please note, none of these reasons have your pet's health at heart. Alright, so now let's get to the nitty-gritty. How do we calculate the amount of carbohydrates in your pet food? Because you're not going to see it on the label. Pet food companies are not allowed to put it on the label. Why? Well, nobody really knows why. Probably because they don't want pet parents to see it. But what we want you to know is that we know how to do it. And that's what we're going to share with you next. So here we go. Find your bag's pet food label and look for the guaranteed analysis, which is where all of those percents are. What we're going to do is start with 100 and subtract out the percent of protein, the percent of fat, the percent of moisture, and if it's listed, the percent of ash. If ash is not listed, then subtract 6, which is the average ash content of dry pet food. And that's it. We're not going to subtract out the fiber or any other numbers that might be listed. Now, guaranteed analysis, it's important to understand, come in minimums and maximums. So when we are calculating in our examples the percent of carbohydrates, there's going to be probably about a 2% range. But it's not really going to make a difference, and you'll see why. Our first example is Purina Pro Plan Shredded Blend Chicken Rice Formula Weight Management. And I chose this one specifically because it's a weight management. Here's the guaranteed analysis from the label. Here's our formula, 100 minus the 25 protein, 8 fat, 12 moisture. This product does not list ash, so we're going to use the average of 6. When you subtract those numbers out, you get a whopping 49% carbohydrates. This is a ridiculous amount of carbohydrates, especially for a dog that is needing a weight management food. Now here's an example of a cat food. This is IAM's Proactive Health Indoor Weight and Hairball Care. Again, I chose another weight control product to show you. Here's the guaranteed analysis. We plug our protein, fat, moisture, and ash into our formula. And what we are left with is a product that is over 40% carbohydrates. This, again, is a ridiculous amount of carbohydrates, especially for cats. Cats are obligate carnivores and truly should not be eating a carbohydrate-based diet like this. Now, here's another IAMS product that is geared for the elderly pets. Here is their guaranteed analysis. When we plug the guaranteed analysis into our formula, we get a product that is 44% carbohydrates. Now, puppies that are very active should not have a diet that's 44% carbohydrates, let alone a senior pet. Next, we have an example of a premium, grain-free, very expensive kibble. This is Natural Balance Ultra Premium Formula. Here is their guaranteed analysis. We plug the guaranteed analysis into our formula, and we see a product that is 48% carbohydrates. So again, we've got very well-intentioned pet parents spending a lot of extra money on what they think is a better quality product. And yet, this product actually has more carbs than some of the cheaper ones. Real quick, here's another product, Science Diet for sensitive stomachs. And on their website is where I found their guaranteed analysis. And right there, they actually tell you that the carbohydrate level is 53.2%. I don't think we need to say anything more about this product. Now, we know there's a lot of pet parents out there who will spend whatever it takes to buy the best for their dogs or cats. Here is a Blue Buffalo product. Just by the marketing, you can tell that this product is meant for the high-end kibble-eating dogs out there. This is their Blue Wilderness Duck recipe. Here's their guaranteed analysis. Plug it into our formula. This product is still 35% carbohydrates. So marketing is playing a huge factor here, because this product, no matter how great it looks as far as the packaging goes, is still way higher than what a dog should be eating as far as the carbohydrate levels go. Now, we know there's a lot of pet parents who feed canned food. In order to make this formula work for canned food, we have to get it on a dry matter basis. And this is how you do that. Find the guaranteed analysis on the can and find the percent of moisture and subtract it from 100. That number is the dry matter within the can. So take that dry matter number and divide it into the protein and the fat, and that's going to give us our protein and fat percents on a dry matter basis that we can now put in our formula. And let's look at an example. Here's an example of Blue Buffalo's canned dog food, their grain-free chicken recipe. And this is their guaranteed analysis. First thing we have to do is get the moisture out. So take 100, subtract out the moisture, and we're left with 22% dry. Now we're going to take the protein and the fat, divide it by that 22% dry to get our new percents. Plug the new percents into the formula we've been using all along, and now you'll get your carbohydrate level, which is 41.3%. So canned dog food is very beneficial in many ways to dogs or cats, but if you truly want to feed a low-carb diet, you're not going to find it in this product. Just to give you an idea of commercial products versus the homemade products, here's one of our recipes. It's our Turkey Meal Complete, which is composed of turkey, turkey gizzards, and vegetables. Here's our guaranteed analysis. Now, this is considered a wet product, so there's a lot of moisture. So we need to get that moisture out. Subtract that 76% moisture from 100, and we're left with 24. Divide out our protein, divide out our fat, and now you have our new percents to plug into our formula. Now you will see 19% carbohydrates. This product is in line with what dogs and cats should be eating. Here's another one of our products based on chicken. It's our Chicken Meal Complete. Chicken, chicken bones, chicken gizzards, and organs. Here is our guaranteed analysis. Again, a wet product, so we have to get that moisture out of there. Divide the protein and the fat by the dry matter percent of 26. Plug those into our formula, and you'll see it's a 17% carb recipe. This is our most popular product, and that is why. People that still want the vegetables, but they want low carbs. This is ideal. At the end of the day, pet parents are going to pick a food that they're the most comfortable feeding. What I hope that we have accomplished today through this video is at least teaching people to be a little more aware of the amount of carbohydrates in our pet foods, and to make them more aware that eating a high-carb diet is going to cause problems. Obesity being the #1 problem that a high-carb diet will cause. And if your pet is eating that high-carb diet day in and day out, there are going to be health problems because it's not a natural diet for them. What you see on your screen now are just some of the problems that continuously feeding every day, day in and day out, a high-carb diet will probably have on your pets. Now that you have a little bit more information, we hope that you'll buy your next bag of pet food a little more carefully. From all of us here at Good Shepherd, we thank you for watching this video.